Hello everyone, my name is Łukasz. I'm an iOS developer for Droids on Roids, and I like to think a lot. So today we'll talk about an architecture that requires a lot of thinking, so that's why I didn't really make some presentations with a lot of slides to explain how we do it. We will do some live coding if the time will be enough. So our architecture, which is MVVM plus Coordinators plus RxSwift, bases on MVVM pattern in Swift that is kind of new but really popular right now, and Coordinators pattern that was introduced, I say, by the Suresh Kanlu 1 year ago at NS Spain. So I really recommend that talk. RxSwift, well, we'll talk about it later. So let's just begin and start with architecture that we all know and all love. So this is the MVC, and this is just a basic pattern. We have a view, we have a model, and controller that connects the view and the model. So there is a connection between ViewController that gets the data from the model and passes it to the view. And view just displays it, and that's basically it. We get some notifications from the view about user actions and so on. But if you think about it, this is just the definition. And there we have a network layer. Where should it go? Maybe controller. We have core data. Where should it go? Maybe controller. May have delegates. We have many more navigations, and you may end up with a new architecture, which is just a plain controller. You may think that okay, every architecture can be abused, and I agree to that. But I'd like to talk about architecture that helps you maintain the code, which is MVVM. And what does it look like? Well, this is really similar to the MVC, because there is no view controller in the definition on MVVM, but there's also a new class, ViewModel. I would like to quote Ash Farrow on the view here, because in iOS we kind of have to go with controllers. So you may think of a view as a view controller plus view as a one entity split between two files. So basically, here we can see that view just displays the data, like in an MVC. There's a model, and ViewModel processes the data and passes it to the view. There's also no place for networking and other code. Let's just stop it here, and we will talk about another pattern, which is coordinators. As I said, really cool pattern introduced to me, at least, by the Suresh Kanlu last year. And what is it? It is basically an object that controls the flow of your application. This is, every push view controller, every pop controller should go there. This is the only one of two responsibilities that coordinators should have. One more is dependency injection, and we'll also use that as well. So how does it look like in application? Well, we should have at least one app coordinator, which starts in app delegate and coordinates the flow of the first screens. But let's say we have a first screen with buttons. There's a register button that gets clicked, and we have another coordinator. Why? I tend to think about coordinators that for every story we have, there should be another coordinator. So in our case, register story is like it needs some space for itself, because there might be registration for using Facebook, using Gmail, and so on. So in my opinion, it should rather be another app coordinator. Of course, you can do a massive app coordinator pattern, but this is your decision. We also can have the login button. This is the same situation, and forgot password button. So we have 3 coordinators just in the beginning of our app, and it can go a long way. That's why I didn't really decide to put some code in the slides. because it is really hard to explain the logic, because there are many view models, many coordinators, how to connect them, and so on. So we'll talk about the last thing that I have in my title, which is RxSwift. Why RxSwift? Well, you can use every functional library. I personally prefer RxSwift and have the experience with it. So, but there are many functional reactive libraries out there, like Reactive Cocoa, Reactive Swift now, Bond, Interstellar, and many more. And basically, just observer pattern is awesome, and just use whatever you want. In these slides, there will be RxSwift just for bindings. And bindings are, you can think of it as, if you don't really follow the functional or reactive or observer pattern at all, just think about Rx as, if you have one cat that you pass to the model, to the view controller, or whatever your pattern you prefer, now you can think of a sequence of cats that you send to the object, but this sequence can have no items at all. Just think about as a sequence that can have an item, or can have many items, or zero. Just a sequence that whatever it brings, whatever it has. And I will just use bindings for it, which is observe the value that ViewModel has and bind it to the view, whatever it changes. So it is really easy. Why it is really easy here? Because we don't use key value observing delegates and many boilerplate code that we don't really need in our application. And I think that's it for our presentation. Let's do some demo. So first of all, if I made any mistake, just shoot at me, whatever. If I forgot any return, whatever, throw a banana. I saw a few there, so if you can help me, it would be awesome. There might be also issues with Xcode, just a reminder. Sometimes it happens, so let's just switch to the demo. And we have an app called Kittygram, which gets the repositories from GitHub. Right here we have repositories for Pharaoh, I believe. He has a few, so nice example to show. Basically, this app does click, and there is a cat in another screen. Really simple, but with 40 minutes, we can't really go in details in more. So how is it built? So this is MVC with a little small app delegate. You probably saw a better one. And this is, I might enlarge the Xcode. It would be a lot better. Is the font all right? Okay, just hide the debug. All right. So in our case, we have a super secret algorithm to push ViewControllers in the beginning, and this is probably some business plan for this guy. And in case the statement passes, there will be shown paying money, please ViewController. The other around, there is a dashboard ViewController, probably with repositories. And we can go to the dashboard ViewController, which is the biggest one in the app. We have repositories. We have registration of NIP, data sources, delegates, the classic download repositories. Show alerts, that's a UI stuff. And yeah, this is the download repositories method. Just get the repositories from GitHub. In case it errors out, just push alert. And the standard the table view data source. Nothing complicated here. So let's go to another ViewController, the pay money please ViewController. This is a standard one, just title and description label. We won't really touch it, I think. Just leave it there. There's the Kitty details ViewController. We pass the repository, which is a model downloaded from the GitHub, and show the Kitty name plus 2 emojis. We have models. for a GitHub API. User model, really simple. I don't think we even use it here right now. And there is the repository model. I use a mapper from Lyft, really cool one. This is Swift free, of course. And yeah, just map the identifier. Everything is optional, just in case if there's no name, I need to display something in the details ViewController. So let's just map it to no name. There's the endpoint, which is based on Moya. I really like Moya because it makes you flexible enough to don't use any external abstractions over the network requests. I can do probably infinite amount of things in Moya because of plugins, closures, and so on. I won't really touch it. This is from the demo example from Moya GitHub, so you can look it up here. Basically, in case that we want to stub our requests, we have to pass the sample data JSON or data just to use the network without network, yeah. And probably we have here, yeah, this is a Moya provider, which is one for our app. But for bigger apps, there might be few providers that should be also provided as in dependency injection. But because we have a one here, let's just leave it here. There's also a stubbed provider. In case we didn't have network, I stubbed some kiddies to show. And that's basically it. This will help us with networking here. And this is the last class, the most important one, which is coordinator. And what does it really have? We have child coordinators. As you saw on the example, we can spawn another one and another one. And the interesting thing here is navigation controller, because you may see that this is on weak. Why is it weak and why is it class? It is a class because it is a weak. And navigation controller must be weak in our case because think about the application with only one navigation controller. So you spawn a child with the same navigation, and you use the navigation controller of your parent, creating a cycle, and then it won't get called. So this is a really important one. So we have a weak navigation controller. In case you use one navigation controller, etc., you can probably leave it. And you might wonder who does it, who is in charge of the reference counter for navigation controller. Well, let's just start our MVC app in a MVVM style. So we have a flow started in app delegate, which shouldn't really be here. We'll take care of it using coordinators. So let's just move these lines here and comment this one for now because Xcode will yell at me. So let's create a new coordinator, app coordinator, the basic one that we use in the beginning of our application. I have the coordinator folder. App coordinator, great, it works. Probably don't need here. Okay, so let's just create a class, final class app coordinator that inherits from coordinator, and probably that's it. But we have to implement one method, which is the in definition of coordinators, I know, which is start. This is just if you have some configuration before creating the app coordinator. You can also just do it after and start the coordinator. This is like really flexible. Of course, we have to import UIKit. Oops. So does it work? Yes, it is working. So I assure you that my Xcode is really slow, as you can see. I heard that Xcode turns into its owner after some time, so maybe that's why it's lazy. So probably that's it, but we have to push the ViewController let's just call it ViewController for now. And push. We want some animations. That's right. Okay, so this is the logic of our flow in our app coordinate that doesn't really belong in app delegate. So we can try to fix the app delegate now, which we broke, and now we can't really pass the UI navigation with a root controller because we don't really have one. So we'll create another navigation controller without any root controllers, because we'll pass a pure navigation controller here, because this is just for satisfying the specs of Xcode. And now we need to create a coordinator. We can use the navigation control that we just create. It should work. Does it work? Okay, thanks. Good hearing. Okay. Navigate. Whoa, thank you again. So, yes, does it work? Oh, thank you. So it is working, at least for now. Let's just start the coordinator right after, and pray to God it works. Oh, this is the other screen. Well, do we have some luck? It is working, thank you. So we have a coordinator pattern probably behind us, but there is a thing that I told you, because we have two stories now. There is a story that, okay, you don't pay me the money, just show the controller that does nothing. And this is the other story that controls the dashboard. So we will split this one into two new coordinators. So we will create a dashboard coordinator. There isn't. Okay, so there is the dashboard coordinator. Inherits from coordinator as well. Just leave it empty for now, and we create. Well, what's this name? Pay money, please, coordinator. Oops. Okay. So we have two another stories for our application. Let's just start with the easiest one, which is pay money, please. And just move this line. Let's just comment this one. Okay. Create the final class, pay money. Not this one. Okay, and func start, which creates a new ViewController and pushes on the navigation stack. Okay, this one is probably done. The second one with dashboard. So let's just go with that as well. Func start. Oops. And push it on the navigation stack as well. Okay. Damn you. Okay, so we have both stories now. Let's just pull the stories here. So the app coordinator should be responsible for knowing which story to perform now. So let's just say, okay, in this case, push the story from the pay money view coordinator. Let's just create a new coordinator. Oh, navigation. Thank you. Okay. And this is the case with only one navigation controller, navigation controller in the app. So we would have a cycle here and create the same one here. Yes, coordinator, navigation, there it is. Let's just start both. And the most important part here is to add the child coordinators to keep the reference to coordinators so it can work. So we will add it here and there. So we can remove this line because it shouldn't really do anything here. This is not needed here, and it should work as well. Well, let's just start it. Damn. We can remove this statement, I think, for a while because. Okay, that's enough. We don't need your business plan right now. Just continue with our demo because we're running out of time, I think. It is working. So this is probably the last thing that we will touch in coordinators. Let's just move quickly to the dashboard controller that we want to refactor. And let's just create a dashboard view model for this class. Create a new group, new model. By the way, there's probably a guideline to just create one view model for a coordinator, but in some cases you may want more. Let's say you have more views in your view controller that you want to bind with different logic. So I would split that as well, but by definition I'm using probably only one view model for view controller. There's a view model class, so dashboard view model. Let's just. Oops. Okay, so one thing about view models that I noticed is that probably always you want to create a protocol because whenever you bind a view model to a view controller, you might want to change the logic. But if you don't use protocols that you will implement by the view model, you might end up with creating many inits and complicating your architecture. So as a rule of thumb, just use a protocol for every view model you create. So let's just use that one and create protocol dashboard view model type. For now, it will be empty, but as we go with the refactor, we will fill it. So just remove it here. Okay, so what do we have in the view controller? Networking, for sure, that we don't really need here. So let's start with networking. For now, we just move the API stuff from here. We create the init for now and move the requests here. Okay, so we have a problem because there is UI logic that we had in the view controller. For testing purposes, let's just comment it for now. This is a new try-catch combination here. So what did we do with the download repository? So it was loaded just in the beginning. So let's just move this one in the beginning of our view model for now. Do we have any more? No, we don't. So let's just focus on the view model for now. Where is it though? Yes, here it is. Okay, so what does the network request do? Just gets the repositories from the interwebs and pass it to the table view. So let's just do that with the usage of sequences of objects, which this is the easiest one to, if you want to try RxSwift. We just create a variable, which is a sequence with at least one object in it. So we'll create a repositories variable, or repos variable, whatever. Okay, so we also need to import RxSwift. And probably Xcode will somehow notice it. Yes, it is. Variable of what? Of repositories for now. Okay, and start with an empty one. So this is the really easy bridge between imperative and declarative programming. So if you want to just quickly go there, let's just use variable. This might be not the best Rx code, because the best Rx code won't be really understandable by many. So I'm not hating at all. So what do we do? Let's just create a new item in the sequence, which is nearly the same as here, but we just use the value property, which has the various repos variable that we have here. And this is basically meaning, okay, just go with the next item in the sequence. And that's probably it. Another rule of thumb is to not really expose variables subjects in RxSwift. So let's just make it private and make some Xcode hacks to use lazy var with type, which will be repos observable. It is an observable of repository. And this is going, there's no auto-completion, unfortunately, here. So pray to God it works. It works. So we have a repositories observable. This is a really rule of thumb. Don't even expose variables, because what happens if someone from ViewController makes another sequence? Are you prepared for it? Because I'm not. So let's just add this repos variable to to our protocol. Not really repos variable, because we won't really expose it, but repos observable with an array of repositories, just to get one. And here it goes. So because we run out of time, we'll just ignore the error for now and remove this line, because it won't be really needed here. And we go to the ViewController. So let's just remove it here as well, and probably this one as well. Just get the cell creation, because in RxSwift and in other libraries as well, there's a fun binding function to ViewController that we can use only a closure, and it fills out all the data source and delegates. So we'll use it now. Okay, we don't have a ViewModel, so that's the time we pass it in dependency injection in our coordinator. So we go back to our coordinator. There is dashboard coordinator, and we have to pass the ViewModel here. Dashboard ViewModel. All right. We don't have an init for it yet, but let's create it. It will be a convenience one with ViewModel. And as I said, just use the type here, because it is really helpful in testing controllers and if it rendered properly. So there's the ViewModel dashboard ViewModel type. Oh, here it is. And create private var ViewModel. Does it really need to be optional? I will just force unwrap it, because whenever we create this controller without a ViewModel, I want it to crash to make me feel that I did something wrong and don't ship this code to the public. So let's just make it crash whenever we do something wrong. And self ViewModel. All right, so now we can use the magic from RxSwift. It has repos observable, and we won't bind it because we didn't really import RxSwift. There will be RxCoco needed as well. Right, and now please, yes. And what do we bind? So there is in a table view property called items that won't really autocomplete itself, so we will use my memory. So I hope it is all right. So the first is a table view, the first parameter. The second one is index, and the third one is item. And here we have to create cell to return it in the closure. We won't really need the delegates for now, so we can remove it as well. We don't really get repository here because we have it from an item. From this repository is observable. But first we need to make an index path. Why we have to make index path? Because this method is really for simple usage. We have an index, not an index path. So we'll create one, not an index path, but index path, right? With row and section. Row will be the index, and the section, let's say 0 for now. Now it will use index here, and we don't have a repository, we have an item. So it works. Or yeah, okay. So this is the time we need dispose bug. What is it? Don't really have time today for that. Let's just believe me that we have to use it here. Right. All right. This is not really the greatest example here, and we won't really talk how to do it proper. We won't really have time to how to do it properly. But my suggestion is to not return observable of items, but observable of view models, because ViewController shouldn't really have an access to model. This was the another step in our making a view model, but this is just for a pure purposes of creating this with view model style. So yeah, this line shouldn't really belong here. This should be something along the line like cell view model and pass the view model that you have from the item, and not the model itself. Yeah. So should it work? I don't know. Probably. Let's just run it, and if Xcode complains about something, we try to fix. Assign view. All right. Assign. Yeah. Coordinator. Where is it? Dashboard. Yeah, it is. So we need to. Yeah, that's why I didn't really make it optional, because it will be hard to debug what is wrong here. So let's just pause the view model. And yeah, all right. You guys are awesome. Thank you. So dashboard view model type. Right. Come kitty. No child. So okay, there's the debug section in our talk. Is it the network? I have the Xcode GM, so it might be something wrong here. Let's just check if it binds here. Well, it doesn't really bind, so it might be a network problem. Let's just check with the stub coordinator I have here. All right, so you have to change the name provider, right? Okay. Yes, it is working. So it was with a network. So probably that's it for today in case of like coding, because we ran out of time already 10 minutes ago. So as a wrap up, yeah, this is probably done, but you have to remember about not passing the model. This is really wrong. Don't even screenshot it. And the other thing is to what? Oh, okay. If you had if you wanted to make the navigation from the controller that holds the keys to the details, my suggestion is to make another variable, now it ViewModel, just to bind the moment it clicks from the moment it clicks from the ViewController to the ViewModel, and then ViewModel has to do something with it. Basically, there are methods like, I might just quickly do a prototype, but not real code here. There's a dashboard ViewController. The way we work with passing the, coordinator node has to push the next controller up. So we create a new protocol, which is for a delegate for the controller. Dashboard ViewController delegate that has to inherit from class, I think, or is it fixed in Swift 3? I don't really know. So there is the only action we would have would be to click on the cell with cat. So let's make a func that we will need for it. So let's say did tap cell with index path. And now, with that in mind, we need to create a custom init in our ViewModel, which is here. So now it is just without parameters, just make a view delegate, which is the dashboard ViewController delegate, and call the delegate in a signal from ViewModel. So that's basically it. You pass it, of course, in a coordinator, and now coordinators knows how to react to it. There's also one thing we need to think about, which is to remove the coordinators, because I just showed you how to create them. But basically, there should be a method that says, okay, coordinator did finish its action, and the app coordinator or whatever is a parent just removes it from the stack. So that's basically it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that we didn't really get to everything I wanted to talk about, but the code from slides should be up on this GitHub link. I really recommend you to watch the Surushka and Lu talk about coordinators, and really inspired me to create the new architecture we use. There is also my repository to how to really use use Moya the way you would get the most from. And the last one, but not least, talk from Esteban that sits here that talks about really similar architecture, because it uses data coordinators instead of data controllers instead of coordinators. So what's it? It's basically just a wrapper for network requests. In Moya, I have it for probably for free with endpoints, etc. But if you don't use it and want to abstract the way you work with networking, I really recommend that talk as well. And if there is any question of if we have time for it.
2 questions. In your demo, you had Xibs. Have you ever tried to make it work with storyboards and segues?
I prepared for that one. Yes, it works. Yes, it works with storyboards because I found the GitHub repository somewhere with swizzling the controllers, so it does work. I don't have a link for it now, but just type coordinators with storyboards, and this is probably the first or the second link there. Thank you.
Thanks.
So what's your take on subjects in Rx?
Do we have to go for that? Okay, so subjects are the way we connect the imperative word with the declarative word or reactive. What does reactive mean? Nobody knows. But you shouldn't really need to use subjects in your project. But this is a really fine if you are just entering the stage of using Rx. I really recommend that first, because you then start using and other operators. You start using more functions from the repository. You are more interested in it, and then you will find out that I don't really need that one because there's observable create. There's many ways to avoid that one, and basically just don't use it. But if you have to, just do it the way I did, this creating a private one and expose only observable. So the ViewController don't have an access to the data from the ViewModel. It should really just do the binding there.
Cool. Thank you very much again.